My name is Marley Carroll. I'm a producer and DJ in Asheville, and I'm here at the Moog factory demoing the new Mother-32 synthesizer. And if you heard the track that was created using exclusively sound sources from the Mother-32, the only thing in the track that wasn't made specifically from this synth would be the kick drum and snare. Other than that, pretty much all of the sounds from the bass line to the lead line to that main sequence to the hi-hats and all of the squelchy bits in between were all created using the Mother. So I thought it would be cool to go through some of the different individual tracks from the performance and kind of show how they were made. The main bit is this continuous sequence. It's sort of the theme. And I came up with that using the Mother in standalone mode. It's got this really cool programmable sequencer, so it's really easy to get some kind of cool ideas going. You can store sequences and move them around on the fly. So, if for example I've got this guy going, I've stored that in one pattern, and by moving over, I can get the sort of bridge or the variation. And then back to the original pattern. When I first came up with this sequence, the one was here, which is how it's would be typically felt. But the Mother has a cool pattern shift function, so you can move the entire sequence an arbitrary number of steps, either left or right, and it's an easy way to generate new ideas really quickly. So this became, instead of being here, I shifted it to the left one beat, so it became 1, 2, 3, 4, which kind of gives it a little more, makes it a little more interesting and a little more funky. The other thing you can do as well is you can get immediate variations on any sequence that you make by shifting the octaves. You can shift the entire sequence up or down using the keyboard. I'll show you how that's done. So we're just jumping around by octaves. And you can also move the sequence by steps as well. This is really cool. So if you wanted to jump up a fourth, for example, you can get some really cool variations that way. The hold knob, sorry, I should say the hold button is really interesting as well. As you might expect, by holding the hold button, you get repeated notes. And after the hold button releases, you can hit the reset button to bring your sequence back to the 1. You can also use the set end button to get some sort of, you can move around the beginnings and endpoints of your sequence. This is pretty cool. That was a 3/2 is always really nice. Anyway, that's the sequencer section, and it's probably one of the most appealing things about this. It's not only good for live performance, but it's a really great way to generate new ideas, and that's what I found myself kind of using the most as I was getting to know the device. So I think that about covers it. I mean, the thing I really like about this is that when you're working in standalone mode, it's really good for generating ideas. And then because it can be synced to MIDI clock and all this stuff, you can kind of go back and more formally tweak it to your liking. But yeah, it's a great device, and that's without even getting into the mod section. I suppose I can touch on that real quick too. One of the more simple routings that I did in the demo was a KB voltage, keyboard voltage, going into the filter cutoff. And what that essentially gives you is, without that routing, the cutoff is sort of static. So as you play up and down the keyboard, the cutoff stays at the same frequency, meaning the highs will be really rolled off, and then when you play lower on the keyboard, the notes will sort of come out again. But by routing the keyboard voltage to the cutoff, you get essentially a keyboard tracking so that the cutoff will follow the notes as you play up the keyboard. So you can get kind of a nice consistent sound as you play up and down. And the only other kind of routing I did was I took the pulse oscillator, the VCO pulse here, and routed it into the external audio input of the mod section. And this mix knob will go between the oscillator and an external source. Usually it's noise, but if you plug in something else into external audio, you can fade between the oscillator and the noise. So what was essentially happening is I was mixing between one of the oscillators and a pulse oscillator, so you can get this nice sort of back and forth. Um, like even though this is technically, I guess, a one oscillator synthesizer, you can switch between um, pulse wave and a saw wave. But if you plug in a second oscillator into the external input, you can sort of mix the two signals, so you can kind of get two sound generations for one note.